us together. Thanks.
Good morning. I am Chris George, a member of your Board of Trustees. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and seasoned. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 900th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. Whether you join us in person or online, we're glad you're here. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here on this gray and windy Labor Day weekend. As we do each week and as we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup and Coast Salish ancestral lands. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We continue to join you in multi-platform mode. You'll see some of us in the sanctuary and others zooming in online. For those meeting in person today, we invite you to join us for coffee time following the service. I see cookies over there. Red mugs are for visitors who would like to chat. For those in person, this facility is equipped with a hearing assistance system. Devices are available at the table in the back of the sanctuary. As we are joined by our new minister, Reverend Crystal Zerfas, and as we move into the fall, we will all have more opportunities to be part of this new beginning. We need volunteers to teach and support religious exploration classes for our children, be celebrants for the Sunday services, and to serve as chaplains online hosts on Zoom. We are re-energizing several committees, and new thinking is always appreciated. Please see Chrissy Kim or email board@tahomauu.com to sign up if you want to volunteer to help in these ways. We are transitioning to a new membership software named Aplos, A-P-L-O-S. You may have received an invitation to that member portal. There is nothing to do now, although you could set up your account if you wish. There will be more news coming from Susan Kunkel, chair of the membership committee, when the time is right. As always, details for our upcoming services can be found on our website or in the e-news or on the back of the order of service sheet. There is additional information there also. Now, let us join together in worship.
For our opening words this morning, we're going to hear Make Yourself Ready. This was authored by a TUUC youth group in 2012. In your mind's eye, make yourselves ready. As the pitcher begins the windup, take a step forward, crouch down with your glove poised. Before sounding one note of music, place your fingers in first position. Stretch. Listen. Gather what you need. Do what you do to be present. Enter this space as if for the first time. And imagine what can go wrong. Open yourselves to what might go right. Are you ready? All right, for our chalice lighting today, I met someone 5 minutes ago and they said they would light the chalice. So I'm going to invite Rachel Larkin, I think it is, to come on up and light the chalice. And I show her how. But we have this special tool in back. And there's a flame in back. You can come around this way. All are welcome here, and I'll get jobs here. Thank you, Rachel. And now, please join in the chalice lighting unison. We light this chalice in deep respect.
Honor and gratitude to those who have gone before, with love and compassion, with loneliness, with hope and faith for the generations to come.
And now for our opening hymn, we will sing with Sheila's help, number 146 in the gray hymnal, Soon the Day Will Arrive. This is not Madonna. There we go. Everybody hear me? All right. Well, this is time for all ages. Some of you are already kind of close, but anyone who wants to come up, get a little closer. And we think about younger people, but anybody could do it. All right, come on up. Thank you. I'm glad to have you come up here. And Rachel and her friends too. Very excited. I wanted to talk today about, well, some of you have heard of the book, All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten or something like that. That's from a UU minister who lived just north of here. I actually think we learned some stuff before kindergarten, and I want to talk about that today. Like, we learn to share pretty early in our lives. And then around that same time, we learn to play cooperatively. And I want to talk about playing cooperatively. And then maybe it'll be a little bit more than just about play, but let's talk about playing cooperatively first. So I think there's some things that are just great to do all by yourself. And then there are other things that are great to do with other people. What do you like to do with other people? I'll pick on some of you. Jonas? It's thinking.
I usually play games with other people.
Plays games. Yeah? Like board games, card games?
No, like at school or something.
At school. Okay.
Yes, I also play like board games with my siblings.
Uh-huh. How about you, Charles? Hard to think of something.
I like to play kickball with them.
Play kickball. Dave has an idea too. Yeah. Eat. Yeah. 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 I was thinking when I was little, I loved to play with Legos. And this is a long time ago. So they didn't have, I don't even know if Star Wars had been dreamt up, but you couldn't make a Millennium Falcon out of Legos because there was no kits like that. We just had building blocks. And I love to play that all by myself. But the times that I'm really remembering, kids from the neighborhood and I did Legos together. And we built crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. And that was fun. The kickball idea reminds me of like, well, can you imagine playing soccer all by yourself? It's not exactly the same thing. It can be fun to dribble or shoot, but it's not really playing soccer. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of time when, is there something like I said Legos I could do alone or with someone else? Is there something else you can do? Like Charles? Yeah, he likes Legos too and says you can do that same thing. You get to push them together and make stuff. That's what I remember too. Yeah. So we learn really early in life to play cooperatively. And then we do a lot of, and my daughter was just mentioning this, like when you go through school and it can all be so self-centered. It's good to develop people, right? And we develop individuals, but it's good to keep working together. And that song we just sung, you know, we can share, we can have a better tomorrow. So that's important. I was thinking about what to do for the opening reading today. And I had this idea, like I was going to talk earlier about, well, one thing that people do alone so much better than together is to write stuff. But you know what? That opening reading was written by a whole youth group. They got together and put that together. And I think it's genius. I've been sharing it forever. I told it I told Dave about it this spring and he liked it. I like it a lot because you can hear the different voices. The person who plays baseball, the person who plays clarinet or whatever. So be surprised at what you can do together, because I was surprised that we could write something together. All right. So the grown-ups are going to get to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to get to hear someone from a whole different part of this country talk about this. I'm not sure what you guys get to do downstairs, but if we make an arch right now, you guys can go see. You don't all have to go down. Some of you can stay up if you're, depending on how old you are. So let's make an arch.
We now come to that time when there is an invitation to generosity. But more importantly, what is the church to you? What needs does it fill? What things does it open in your mind and your heart? Just like us needing food to keep on with our bodies and having the energy we need to fill our needs, the church needs food also. And it is your generosity in helping to fund the church that enables us to be able to support the congregation, support the staff that are here to help us to support the community. So please, you can donate as it shows here at TUUC.com. You can make a monthly contribution plan to the church, as Patty and I have. So a certain amount of money each month goes to the church. There are so many different ways that you can serve the church. And if you can't find the funds available, the other thing you can give to the church is your time. As has been mentioned already today, there are so many different ways that you can be a part of the church and help the church and the community grow. So thank you. Thank you for your time, your effort, and your funding to help us grow.
Well, that was an offering. Thank you, Mary Ann. Let's dedicate our offering with these unison words. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls. So for meditation today, I'm borrowing something from Bill Graves. Bill's name was up there on that last slide. He taught us one winter about 5 spiritual practices. So I'm going to do a little breathing meditation, and then we'll just have a few moments of silence. I breathe in the world, and I breathe out attentiveness. I breathe in the world, and I breathe out acceptance. I breathe in the world, and I breathe out gratitude. I breathe in the world, and I breathe out commitment. I breathe in the world, and I breathe out compassion.
In the midst of the hardest days, shaped by the most tedious of moments, when the heart breaks open and the spirit is weary, speak to me of love. When the earth cries out in despair under the weight of trash and debris, choking on poisonous plumes and darkened dust, speak to me of love. When bodies are rejected, dejected and subjugated by fear, misunderstanding, and a sheer lack of imagination, speak to me of love. When humanity is ensnared by virus deadly and individual rights are lauded as supreme, speak to me of love. When in a suspected and supposed democracy where all are equal and the ability to vote is a right, yet we make false idols of procedures and tainted halls for the pure sake of greed and contempt, speak to me then of love. When peoples of hues vast and varied, rich as the cosmos are criminalized, brutalized, and theorized, speak to me then of love. In the midst of the hardest days, shaped by the most tedious of moments, when the heart breaks open and the spirit is weary, lament, dear ones, without apology, for this is all too much to bear. For what is love in a moment such as this? It is a force which drives and sustains us through wilderness valley to the mountaintop. It is the force behind the plow which gives forth abundant nutrients and sustenance. It is the force that rebuilds and makes things new. It is the force that shields us in truth and resiliency. Love indeed is an action. It is the reality of relationality, of mutuality. It calls us into a space of transformation betwixt and between, all while overcoming the teething, tearing desires for perfection. It is grace made known for all of us. Love, lament, and rebuild, dear one. For from the impossible to the real, to the here, to the now, to the love which binds the world together, may love be known here.
Just the other day, I found myself strolling down memory lane, partially due to the never-ending spiral of chaos in our world and my desperate need for distraction. As memories and sensations came and went, my mind landed on the water's edge where I spent several summers with my father camping at Smith Mountain Lake in Central Virginia. There, at this campground, I would just roam about on my own, playing in the creeks that meandered their way into the lake, picking up large chunks of quartz crystal and adding them to my growing collection, and spying upon salamanders as they slithered about. The water's edge was a cherished place, a safe place. It allowed me to be curious, happy, and carefree. And there I would occasionally build sandcastles on the beach. And in all reality, it wasn't much of a beach, but it was a small cove that had been cleared of a few saplings and large rocks, which had a few barrels of sand put down to make it feel more like a beach. While my father was never much of one to buy me proper toys to build sandcastles with, I instead used what was available to me: damp sticks, jagged rocks, fallen leaves, and my own bare hands. While none of my creations looked like the proper and respectable sandcastles that most of us would be accustomed to, they worked for me. You could generously say that my earthen creations had character and some pizzazz about them. And my, how I was proud of what I had carefully planned for and created. Yet that pride did not always last, because building sandcastles on the edge of a lake denotes the presence of one thing: water. Each morning I would come to the makeshift shoreline only to find my gleaming creation from the day before practically washed away. And without a doubt, I would become frustrated, grief-stricken, and overall bewildered as to how my work could just cease to be. Each time I would build something new and strategize a different plan that included a bigger moat or a higher wall of sticks, all in the hopes that my sandcastles would be protected from the rising tides and ever-present waves. And each time, I would return only to be frustrated, grief-stricken, and bewildered yet again. In retrospect, I am left wondering, how could I have ever held back the waters alone? And where could I have gone for support in rebuilding? In some way, this is one of the ancient questions that we as humans have asked ourselves repeatedly. And as the Reverend Ali Bell posed in his meditation entitled Psalms 121, we lift our weary eyes from the Shelter in This Place meditation anthology. Where do we find help in these sorrowful times? We are seeking something to hold us, someone to hold us, for we feel so weary. Each of us, all of us, really, have sought the answers to these questions. And each of us, I would imagine, have identified one or two, maybe even three if we're lucky, places where we can find refuge and support during the most trying moments, such as the ones we now find ourselves in. Whether they be family or friends, work or music, gardening or just zoning out, the list goes on. And I would dare to imagine, no matter whether this is your longtime community or you're checking this place out for the first time, that church might fall somewhere on that list for you. Yet of all those places which we find solace, the church is different. It is different in that it is a space that we come to as our full selves, our messy selves, our yet to be selves. Spiritual community is different in that it gives us a place to gather whilst being guided by the wisdom of our predecessors, all while striving to fulfill the hopes of those who are yet to come. And this place, made holy by our presence together, and this place held together by our covenants, our highest aspirations with and for one another. Church is where we strive to live into the instructions of prophets from days gone by, as to live in the ways of justice, connection, and groundedness. And yes, while the location, the physical brick and mortar location has something to do with this, the church is more than the concrete, the wood, the stained glass, and the carpet. It is about the people who gather and organize, who soothe and comfort, and the sublime cause for which we gather to explore, and how we are set free in doing so, together. Theologian James Luther Adams once stated, "I call the church free, which in covenant with that divine community-forming power brings the individual, even the unacceptable, into a caring, trusting fellowship that protects and nourishes their integrity and spiritual freedom. Its goal is the prophethood and the priesthood of all believers, the one for the liberty of prophesying, the other for the ministry of healing." End quote. In this, we see how the church, our beloved and still complex spiritual community, exists differently in times such as these, and that it, through us, calls into being by words and deeds alike, a life-giving way of being with and for one another. It is the co-creation lab of humanity, if you will. A lab that is not dependent upon perfection or tasks to be completed or hours to be clocked in on or simply showing face when our hearts have been shattered. But it is instead about the life-giving imagination and the resulting actions in which we are each given into freedom through bold and beautiful actions of love and compassion. In this, we receive a clear instruction, I believe. An instruction that I find myself often needing to be reminded of, in so much that we, us, hold the steering wheel of our history. We make the choices, beloveds. And in this greater moment, I find myself wondering, and maybe you do too, will we move into what comes ahead feeling unlovable and cast wildly asunder, or will we go forth remembering power unto ourselves as to tend to our communities and caring deeply for one another? A community in which we find our help and in each other, in the faces of those who we shared this physical and virtual chapel with. One in which we find embrace, though not always in the physical sense, but in the knowing and remembering that we have been, are being, and will be cared for and witnessed to throughout the course of our life. Yet the prophetic and healing work that we are all tasked with feels wildly, wildly daunting right now. We are in a moment of cosmic shifting, and as I have come to say, if we lived 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, we would be writing biblical stories about what we are experiencing and witnessing right now. For nothing is normal. Nothing is right. The tide continues to rise, and the waves seem to almost never cease. And I must admit that this week has felt like another one of those trying series of days full of trials and tribulations. Things are so hard, beloveds. And I have found Just naming for myself and maybe for you too that my anxiety and despair is eking out all over the place. We have turned to a whole manner of things instead of creating, ensuring relationships and upholding our covenants with one another. It is easy for us to be guided by our broken hearts and open wounds, not towards care and tenderness, but towards isolation and despair. And though, while understandable, it doesn't change anything. It only makes it worse over time. But as we look for the guiding wisdom, a guiding word, I find the words and meditations of Adrienne Marie Brown as a reminder, and that she says, we can survive this without destroying everyone around us. Though however challenging our mission, to prophetically imagine a new way of being and healing may be, it is only possible through the telling of the hard and tender truths of our time. And it is only through the telling of our individual and collective truths that we can fulfill our mission as a covenanted spiritual community. This invites us at least and requires us at most to speak of our experiences in all the moments of our lives, to be brave in the sharing about our broken hearts and weary spirits, and our joys and excitements, because our emotions exist in the intricately woven tapestry of our fleshiness. And to be honest about where we have been and most likely need to go in the days ahead. There's a part of me, I must confess, that feels hesitant in exploring these delicate threads as I can hear the nagging whisper in my head saying, go easy right now. We can't take too much. Yet in so many conversations with others, I detect a deep desire, a desperate yearning to be reminded that we are indeed headed somewhere, or at least needing to be reminded that it is our hope as a religious people, guided by audacious values and a prophetic mission, that we are indeed headed somewhere. It's somewhere I would imagine that is akin to what my ancestors would have called the promised land, where milk and honey flow freely for all to receive. But such is only possible if we do the needed discernment work and the precious tending to our journeys right here, right now. In April of 2020, the Reverend Nadia Bowles-Weber shared in her remarks at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., that this is the time where we will have to clean out the church. Meaning, we are going to need to act while discerning what is and is not our work to do. We can't do it all. We will need to discern what is and is not our mission and greatest calling. We are going to have to discern what is and is not embodying our values. And what we discern God willing should not be infighting or hiding our light or fear-based guessing, choosing the same old, the quick disregard and passing interaction, or over-functioning because it is what we are used to. But we instead have this moment to make other choices. Faithful choices, imaginative and creative choices, healing and transformative choices to ground and connect with one another. This effort has been and will be hard because the sources of our pain are ongoing. Yet we must remember in all of this that the trauma of our time seeks to pull us to the shadowy places that say isolation, distraction, and chaos is all that is left. Yet the healing that we can champion and bring about for one another occurs through bringing ourselves into ourselves, bringing our communities into themselves through acts of transformation rooted in truth-telling, accountability, reorienting and moving forward differently. Healing is ultimately about coming into and remembering our whole selves, reaching out to one another in blessed care and reassuring one another in our collective journey. And it will require us to try out new modalities and to pivot in changing needs as to access the care of community, justice, and groundedness right now, though we would sometimes rather not. So I'd like to invite you into a few moments of prophetic mindfulness, if you will. If you're comfortable, close your eyes, place your hands somewhere comfortable, and envision what an audaciously supportive spiritual community feels like. What sensations come up? Are there tears? Honor them. Are there yearnings for connection? Honor them. Are there desires for stillness and slowing down? Honor them. Is there fear and hesitation that we might lose control and what currently has been will become unrecognizable? Honor them. Are there pangs to change the world? Honor them. When you're ready, I invite you back into this space. Open your eyes and take a few deep breaths. In closing, I'd like to share another memory of those childhood sandcastles I had mentioned earlier. One of those mornings when I had come to the water's edge and found my creation from the day before gone, I was greeted by other children around my age. I hadn't seen them before, but they noticed how I was peering down at a mound of sand and rocks and sticks and leaves, and they asked, "What are you doing?" I sheepishly shared that it was a sandcastle that I had built the day before. Maybe noticing the look upon my face, as I have never been one to hide a facial expression, they asked if I'd like to build another castle with them. So I said yes. At that moment, one of the children walked away for a few moments, only to reappear with a few sandcastle-shaped buckets and a shovel. Beloveds, we are indeed each other's keepers. Tending to our lives with and for one another has always felt challenging, because it is. But we can and we must do it together. It is our invitation. It is our mission. It is our mandate as a spiritual community who have covenanted with one another to do a whole host of things, and most of all, to love and care for one another mutually. When it is all too easy to turn inwards as to hide from our sorrow and to not let others see, as the Reverend Denison once said, gentle people, come towards your community. You can come just how you are. We are all disappointed and sad and stressed out about so many things right now. Let us help each other through, end quote. Let us rejoice. Let us rejoice in the audacious possibilities of our love and care for one another. Let us be received in this, our holy connection to one another, and may we be transformed and fortified in the doing of such, all while truly coming to know that we are of one creation, bound up and set free through endless grace and mercy. Ashe, so be it, and amen.
I now invite us, as we do each week, to set an intention for the week ahead. Think about what you've heard today, the music, the words, the wisdom that Charles shared about press things together to build things. Whatever it is, take a moment and think about the week ahead. Amen. So may it be. All right, we are ready for our closing hymn. Again, we'll have Sheila's help, and we'll be singing number 121 in the gray hymnal, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free. With the oil of gladness dissolves the mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may men create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may men create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may men create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may men create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
All right, for our closing words, I've chosen some from the hymnal by Nancy Wood. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. We will now extinguish the chalice. So I'm going to ask Rachel to come back up. And I think we'll say the words first. Is that right? The slide will come up and we'll see the words to say. So join in unison here. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitments. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And because we didn't practice that, you now see the chalice has been extinguished. All right. Let's join together for our closing blessing song. The words will be up on the screen, and many of you know what to do with your hands. I don't. Don't follow me. Follow Stacy or Dave.